I know. What did I do with my life?
Say hi to Jen.
Hi to who?
Jen.
Oh, Jen. Okay.
Okay, are we ready to get started?
Say hi to John. Just call me John.
Okay, there will be about 10 minutes after I get home, your exam guide will be posted. I have just a couple changes to make. It'll be out there, study guide. Right here, so we add a few things to it. Covers pretty much everything that'll be on the test. Gives you some definitions.
What was that word that you just said? Pretty much.
Pretty much. I'm not going to
That scares me.
put my life down that this is everything, but I believe it is. It's only 3 pages long of what you need to know. I have a couple things I wanted to add on there to make sure, because they didn't call out explicitly. This is a mix of both mine and the other 1400 class, and whoever you talk to in that 1400 class is probably not doing really well, because they covered a lot of the same material. Or else it's on their final at least. They may not have covered it, but anyway. I double-checked stuff. I went through everybody's questions. You guys did really good on the questions. I appreciate it. I know it wasn't easy. I was up till 10:30 taking your questions and putting them together.
Wow.
Did you even look at mine?
I looked at yours, and I have to tell you, yours was the last one.
She's like,
So what I thought I'd do tonight, we'll go through the questions. I have them by chapter for everybody that did. There's a couple, there's some repeats, so I'll kind of avoid the repeated questions. We'll just kind of hit everything that you guys hit on the chapter. The questions will come off of this, off of the quizzes, and off of the exams. I've already got the test put together. Yes, I will post this out. There's some mistakes in here. I have to validate everybody's answers, so they haven't totally been validated. There's a few that were questionable. I got to double check. But I will go through them all. I will not post the quizzes or the exams, but we will go through the questions on those. And we did go through them before on some of them. So we'll go through those tonight. If they're a repeat of what's in the chapter, we'll go quickly over it, because a lot of them were questions that were on the quizzes or the exam, maybe worded a little bit differently, but they're really the same premise. So we'll go through that. We will go through the test prep first, and then I will stay, and I want to go over the polymorphism assignment, the last assignment, to help you out some more on that. So we'll stay as late as we need to get through that and get you comfortable with what needs to be done on that. Okay? That sound fair?
mm-hmm.
Not fair. Is it doable? Okay. Possible? Okay. Okay. I'm going to read what's on the study guide so you guys know what's on there. Here's the topics. No, it will be as soon as I get home. I got 2 things to fix because I couldn't get it in here. I didn't get it fixed beforehand, and I will post it. In fact, I'll post it before I leave tonight. I'll put the 2 things on there, the additional things. Okay, here's what you need to study or know. How Java works. What is the Java virtual machine? The 8 primitive data types and what kinds of data they can store. The wrapper classes and how to use them. How to write data to the console. How to read data in from the user on the console. How to work with string objects, including comparison, manipulation, concatenation, and utilizing the string methods. How to work with if, else if, and else statements. How to understand identifier scope. How to work with switch statements. How to work with for loops, while loops, and do while loops. How to work with nested loops. How to work with methods, including overloaded methods, and what they are. How to work with classes. You need to know what public and private mean, what methods are, and what data members are. You need to be able to read code on paper and understand the logical flow. The programs will be very similar to what we had on the first 2 exams and what you guys have provided. Several of you provided little snippets of code and said, does this work? What is the result? That kind of thing. Those will be on the test that way. I may change the order of your answers or the answers that you had slightly, So then it may not be exactly what you put in there because I'm going to reword some of them to be more correct than the way you've got them worded. You need to be able to read code and understand the logical flow as if it were to run on the computer. You need to be able to write code by hand on paper so that if it were placed on a computer, it could compile and run. That's actually what the other instructor had in there. You need how to work with arrays, how to define them, how to size them, how to pass them into methods, and how to work with two-dimensional arrays. You need to know what libraries are and what the import statement means. You need to know how to work with the math class and its methods that we used in class, the min, the max, the square root, the random, those ones that we did in class. You need to know what a constructor is, how to create one, what it means if a constructor has 0 arguments, what overloading constructors mean and how to do it. You need to know how to override and produce your own two-string method. Several of you did that as part of the problems you turned in. You need to know how to work with the array list. You need to understand the differences and similarities between arrays and array lists. You need to know the difference between local, instance, and class members, both variables and methods. You need to know how to code a constructor, the access and mutator methods. You need to understand what a compound operator is, how to use it, what prefix, what postfix is, what the logic operators are, what access modifiers are, what public, private, protected, final, static, what all of those mean. Okay. You need to know when you use helper methods and how to use them. And then, of course, you need to know the definition of encapsulation and how Java provides it, what inheritance is and how Java provides it, why it's important, what aggregation is, what composition is. You need to know the @override symbol, what that does. You need to know what polymorphism is and how Java implements it. You need to understand a has a relationship versus an is a relationship. You need to understand the instance of operator, what an abstract class is, what an abstract method is and how they're used, what an exception is and how to handle it, how the try-catch blocks work and how they should be coded. You need to understand a little bit about the exception class. I'm not going to go into details on the exception class, but we did talk about it. A comparison between a superclass and a subclass and the proper syntax to code them. You need a general idea of how recursion works. You will not have to write a recursion program in here, but you need to understand what it works and the conditions related to using it. Several of you did that. You need to know what a break statement does in a loop. How to write and use a switch statement, what checked and unchecked exceptions are. You need to know the syntax for a for each loop and how to use it. And you need to know top-down and bottom-down design and what the this reference means and how it's used, the word this, when you use that in code. And then there's some definitions provided, not all of them are in here, but there's another page of definitions. Like arguments, parameters, types, return types, scope, IDE, constructors, members, data members, that kind of stuff. The definitions are there. Okay. So I basically took what you guys have put together, and I thought these are the topics that you have covered in the questions, so we're going to make sure we cover them. Okay. So we can do this a couple ways. We can do the quiz questions first, and then the exam questions, and then go to the chapter questions. Does that sound reasonable, or do you want to do it in a different order? I'm fine either way. Okay. So I've got quiz 1 here, and actually I'm just going to ask them because it's too easy to see the answer and then not be able to think about the question.
You choose a piece of paper and slide it over.
I could, except that they're usually the multiple choice. I'll give you the choices. What's the correct commenting syntax in Java? Give me the 2 options there. So what are they? Slash and
asterisk.
the asterisk slash, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between them?
That's a one line.
That's a one line, and what part of the line is commented out?
The one after.
Whatever follows after, right? Okay, what's this one?
It's a block.
Multiple line, and how much is blocked off?
Whatever's between.
Everything between here and here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does JVM stand for?
Java Virtual Machine.
About 5 of you had that as a question too. What does JRE stand for?
Java Runtime Environment.
What was that?
Java runtime environment.
Java runtime environment, correct.
Oh, I don't know.
Java source code is compiled and converted to what?
Bytecode.
Bytecode, right. What is the extension of a file with Java bytecode?
Isn't it .class?
.class. What are your two extensions you worry about in Java?
.class and .java.
.java is your source code. .class is your bytecode, right? If you had a program, we'll call it my program, how would you run that from the command line? Yeah, if you have a bytecode file, a .class file, how would you run that? Java my program, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay. What is a keyword? Keyword versus an identifier. They're not the same thing. Which of these are keywords?
I know.
Object and int. Which ones are variable identifiers?
Oh, I know.
Right. Why are these keywords? They're reserved words. You can't create an object another object called object.
That's another question.
What is an algorithm? Define an algorithm for me.
Well, it's anything that steps to solve a problem.
It's a step-by-step procedure that solves a problem. That'll work. Okay. What's pseudocode?
English version of code.
It's just
Pseudocode is your simplified speech. Your basic algorithm in basic English of what you're going to.
what you want your program to do, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That was the first quiz. What is the main function of any variable?
Sorry, repeat that.
What is the main function of any variable? What is a variable supposed to do? It holds a value, keeps track of data in the memory of a computer.
Mm-hmm.
What is an object?
It's the instance.
Close.
An
An object is an instance of a class. So if I
That's
asked
what
you to compare and contrast objects and classes, you could do that, right? Okay, what's the difference between a class and an object?
Define.
Right, that's the best way to think of it.
Through
The object,
class.
the class is the cookie cutter. The object is the actual cookie, or the house
Cookies
plant,
now.
whatever. Okay, give me the syntax for the Java main method. You were using the main method in your code.
Public, static, void, main. String, capital, open and close brackets, args. Well, I like saying args.
Don't forget, what are the curly braces?
The
They're the
beginning
holders
and
they-
ending of the
What's the definition of the curly braces? It sections off your code. You can have curly braces inside curly braces, right? So this is a block of code, this is a block of code. True or false, the default statement of a switch is always executed.
Wait, I thought there weren't any true false questions.
I'm just doing the one that was on the quiz.
I thought.
These aren't
never
our
mind.
questions.
These
I
are
thought-
yours, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's false, right? Because if what happens, how does that work? If you have a switch statement,
If one of the cases has a break, it'll skip to past what's called, whatever it's called.
so you have a bunch of case statements, then you have a default. So that's why the default is not always done. as soon as it hits a break, it jumps out of the switch statement, right?
So we'll always go if there is a request.
Yeah, okay, if you have this, you had a case statement that said case A did something, and then it had case B, and it did something, and case C, and it did something. What would the result of this be? Say these are all print statements. What would you get? You'd get them all, right? But what if I had a break right here? It'd print all the way to the break, correct? What was that? Okay, what's a loop? Give me a definition of a loop.
Repetition of
A
code.
section of code that will repeat in a determinate amount of times.
Right. That's all it is. That's the second quiz. Okay, a method that reads an object's data items is called what? An accessor, a mutator, a boolean, or none of the above?
Wait.
It's an accessor. What's the difference between an accessor and a mutator?
So just says the information
Mutator changes.
Correct.
The second.
How long do instance variables persist?
for that
life
method.
of the object.
For as long as the object exists. That's a scope question. So what is if I said what's the scope of an instance variable? It would be as long as the object exists. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, if you have this statement,
Local.
car, does it allocate space and memory for the object, true or false?
Well,
What does it do at this point?
it's very negative.
It's allocating space and creating an address for where that will point to, or where it will be located. How would you
Instantiate.
How would you change this so it instantiates it? So it both creates the address
Car
and.
equals new car. And then whatever goes into this thing.
Okay, what would it be?
Equals
New car.
new.
Capital.
And then if you don't
X,
have
Y,
anything,
whatever.
yeah. Okay, what does the new word do for you?
It creates a new object.
It instantiates the object. That keyword new does this part, the memory in here. Okay. Okay, true or false? I'm going to, on this one, you can always access a public public class member from an instance method. Is that true or false? It's true. So you have a public class member. Can you access that from an instance method? How do you define a public class member? Say a variable, a public class variable.
Public static.
Well, here, let's do the whole thing. You have a class.
It's right after the class.
So I have a class called my class. And then I have a value called name. I want to call it's a string. So how would I define that here? I want it to be a public class member.
Public static.
If I want it to be private or only available, when I say it can be available, what do I have to put?
Private. No
Private, right? If I make this private, there's no way to access name. So how do I access name? Accessor. What's the syntax for an accessor?
Public.
The variable is called name.
Get name.
String. Get.
This string.
And return this.
Okay. So far. True or false? The name of the constructor must be exactly the same as the name of the class.
True.
Yes.
Any problems with that? It's true.
What does a constructor return? What is the return type of a constructor?
Nothing.
Whatever.
It doesn't return you.
Yes, it doesn't return a type.
It does return.
It returns a reference to the object, but as far as you're concerned, it doesn't return it.
You don't actually have that.
Okay, what is this operator?
Equal.
It's comparison.
It's a comparison operator. If I have this statement, what is it comparing?
What's in that? Make, model, whatever.
It's not doing that. That is incorrect. What is it doing?
It's comparing the address.
Right. I have a car 1 address, that's ABC, and a car 2 address that either is ABC or DEF. It's comparing the addresses. It is not comparing the contents. How would you compare the contents? You use an equals method, which you have to code. You have to then define what you're going to check to make sure it equals. Because at its very minimum, an equal does exactly what this does until you code it, that you're going to check the contents of car 1, which would be model, make, whatever. Okay?
So an equals method that comes from the object class, right?
Yes.
And so it does the exact same thing unless you override it.
Unless you override it, it does exactly what this does, and that says that the address is the same. That's why you code it yourself, because you're going to say what you want it to do.
Is there a name for that operator?
What was that?
Is there a name for the operator?
It's called an equals operator, yeah. Okay. Why would you create a helper method?
Organization.
Okay. What was another one?
To make a block code reusable and also continuous so that it's not accessible by.
Did we use any helper methods in that?
Yes.
What can you guys think off the top of your head what helper methods you've used? What was that? Calculate payment or the calculate the loan. When you did the mortgage calculator, I think that's the first one we did with the helper method. You calculated the payment, you called that, but it was never really called from outside of your program. Okay, in the interest of what would you use local variables instead of instance variables whenever possible?
For encapsulation.
Encapsulation, very good. What is a prototype? It's just a mock-up of what you're going to create that you're going to show to people to see if that meets what they're talking about. What keyword converts a variable into a constant? The final keyword. If you use the final keyword, what do you usually do with it? Okay, so you have a final. The modifier is public. And then what? Say it's my value. How am I going to use
My underscore value.
What else do you want to do?
Don't you want to give it a value?
Yeah, and actually, let me see that. See it's again.
0.
I don't think you have to basic object code where if you receive value from the user, then it becomes fine.
You can define it, yes. There are this class variable, class constant has to be defined.
So it's 0.
But you could leave it like this, and then in your constructor, you can set it based on what they want to set. Can you change it after it's been set? No, because the keyword final tells you that is all it can be. You need one value and one value only.
So class variables don't need to be defined right then and there, but final class or
Final static, yes. You have to be defined, yes. Okay, suppose you have a grading program that instantiates multiple exam objects from an exam class. Provide a declaration for a constant minimum passing score. Assume the minimum passing score is 59.5. How would you write that out? This is a declaration for a constant for multiple exam objects. So when you hear the word multiple objects, what are you thinking there? It's part of the class. Remember, because it's going to apply to all the objects that are instantiated from that class. So what would be the syntax you would have there? It's private.
Well,
And then we're just going to say it's a double. Then you give it a name, right? And then what?
Equals.
Right. Which of these is part of the Java classes interface? Public methods, private variables, or constants?
Wait, what?
Which of the following is part of a Java classes interface? It's your public methods. Those are the only things to another program or another application that they can see. Anything flagged private, they cannot see when they go to use your class. Yeah, the word interface there is to say what can people see about that class. It's only public stuff, public methods, public variables. Anything else is hidden from them. And why do you do that?
So they
Encapsulation.
So would you call the private ones intraface?
The introverted methods. Okay. What do you need in a recursive method so that it will eventually stop?
return statement.
It's close. Stopping condition, right? You have to have some condition that's going to change, that's going to cause that recursion to quit calling itself. What were some examples we had in class of using recursion? Towers of Hanoi, fractals, factorials, right? Fibonacci sequence is another one, yes. What does MVC stand for? You guys remember that one? These are ones you guys will want on to know for interviewing. We did some more interviews yesterday. I didn't do them, who I work with. And these are things that they look for. M, capital B, capital C.
Send before infinite.
Model, view, controller. This was on that. It was on this quiz right here. That's in my hand. Model, view, controller. When you build applications, pieces of it are the model, pieces of it are the view, pieces of it are the controller. What we've done at this point is you guys are coding mostly the controller, the business logic. The view would be the screens if you were doing output, and the model would be like your database or your files that are in the back end holding the data. And that's how you define it.
So these are like the three parts
of a three-tier application.
Okay. Yeah, three-tier.
What is big O notation? Somebody had that as a question on their thing, so they at least one person should know this.
Big O notation.
Big O notation. It defines the order of complexity of an algorithm. To say how long it's going to take in computer processing time or how many resources. You guys will need to not only know what big O notation is, you'll need to know all the different types of big O notation, and every type of algorithm you use, you have to know what its big O notation, what its average, what its max or best case, what its worst cases. Believe me, I had that on just my exam. I will have it again next week. Okay.
Wait, for our, we'll need to know that stuff for our test?
No,
Okay.
not for our test. Sorry, I'm sorry. No. But I'm just warning you, you're gonna hear that word again. That's why I'm writing it.
I was like,
I'm sorry.
I've seen your face up here just like,
I didn't.
I'm like, I don't
noticed
remember
everybody
that
went
at
pale.
all.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way.
You forget, we're still asking questions about the final exam.
You're right. Okay.
I'm scared.
What is typecasting in Java?
Oh.
Give me an example. What was that? Okay, how would you do that? I have we're going to pretend it's clean data. I have a string I want to, I have an integer that I want it to be a double. How would I do that?
And then you give whatever it is
So I have an integer called x.
equals 2.0.
Well, we're going to say it's set to something. How do I cast that to a double? Okay.
Let's see, X is an issue.
Yeah. Right. So what is this doing? It's taking X and it's casting it to this type. Okay. Then you can do things with it that you couldn't do with an integer as an example. Okay. So that's called typecasting. So you're changing the variable value before it participates in other expressions. So you would do this conversion. You would have something called and then do something down here with dx. I just use dx for double x, but you can call it anything, or you could do it as part of a call to another method or whatever. Okay, so you need to understand what typecasting is and how it works.
I was curious, what are like all the different types you can cast between? Just primitives to those between?
Yeah, you can cast to another object, but it takes a little. If you're going from a string to a double or an integer, you usually parse. You're using the wrapper class methods to do in the parse methods. There's certain things you can't convert without doing it.
Anything you would do with the cast, you could do with the wrapper class. Like, you have said you're taking a big one.
Yes, you could. Yes. What is an enum? What are enum types in Java? I'll give you some choices. Special type, Java type used to define collections of constants. A special kind of Java class, it can contain constants, methods, etc. A fixed set of distinct constants. All of the above or none of the above?
All of the above.
All of the above. Enums are ways for you to define constants. We did a couple examples. Which examples did we do?
Days of the week.
Days of the week is a common one to do. Months of the year, that's another common one to do. Okay, if you have this code fragment here, tell me what it's going to print out. What is that going to print?
Binary progression.
What do you mean by binary progression?
I guess it starts with 0 and goes 1, 2, 4, 8, doesn't really stop because there's no stop condition anyway.
Yeah.
It'd be 0, 2. Well,
So
it'd
it's
be
gonna be
0,
0,
2, 4, 6, 8.
2, 4, 6, yeah. And the main point here is this goes on Y. Goes on till infinity here as well. There's no stopping condition right here. And there was 2 semicolons. You can have multiple things here that you increment, multiple counters. You can set multiple counters and move them, but without a stopping condition, it's going to give you an infinite loop.
How does it start with 2 unless so 1 is
Because 0, okay, it starts at 0. If I is 0 and j is 0, then I plus j is 0.
Oh, that I placed.
Yeah, I plus j.
Oh,
Sorry, it's kind of messy. And then if they're both 1, 1 plus 1 gives you 2.
I was just, yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. The main thing here is without the stopping condition. And the other thing I want to point out is you can do multiple counters within a for. Yes, you could have multiple stopping conditions. You could say where I is less than 4 or j is less than 2. So if that was the case, what would happen? You'd only go a couple times because j would end up being only going twice or 3 times.
0, 2, 4.
Well, j only increments by 1, so it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it would stop because it would be 4. So you go that many times through there. But yes, you can have multiple stopping positions. That was quiz 5. That was the last quiz. Okay, on the exams, give me the data types or the literals for a Boolean. What would be the values you would have for a Boolean?
true, false.
Yes.
One more question about the stopping condition. Can you do it with a comma, or do you always use like Boolean operators?
In that case, you'd have to do with the operators, because otherwise there's no way for it to know. When you're incrementing them or initializing them, you can do a comma between them, but the condition to determine.
You can't use commas in place of orders or something.
No. What is the symbol for an or? If you were going to do that, so if you had I'm going to do X because it's easier to read. Joe can see this thing. Okay, and I want a condition that says where X is less than 2 or Y is, I forgot this. I'm going to start X at 0 and Y at 4. And I'm going to increment X and decrement Y. And I want my stopping condition to be while X is less than 4 or Y is greater than 0. So give me that condition right there.
X is less than 4. Double bar.
The double bar.
Y is greater than 0. Yeah.
Got real quiet there.
I don't even remember what you
I can't remember
said.
what she said. Okay, if I was going to do an and condition, what would I do? So that is the conditional operator for and versus conditional operator for or. Okay.
What was it you were doing in the last class where you needed 1 bar per?
That was for separating exceptions that you can have to exception classes. Yeah.
And you were saying that you can only do that for exceptions, right?
Tell me how you would print out a statement, welcome to my world. Give me the syntax. If you had to write this on the exam, what would you write?
System.
Okay, we'll do a couple choices. Let's do Ellen first. What would you say here?
Welcome.
We're going to shorten it just to
Semicolon.
Okay. So if you wanted to format it and I wanted to put a number in there, what would I do?
System that out. Right.
Okay, I've got a value up here. Okay. So it's a number. So what do I want to print welcome, and then I want this X value to be on.
Put in welcome. And then you want the format operator, which is the percent sign.
You're going to have space here, right? Because I want space.
Oh.
So put a space there.
Do you want the exclamation point in?
After the number.
After the number. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Then you put in.
I want to be able to see 5.02.
Oh, that's
0.2x.
you want to put and then X. Oh no, we wouldn't put that in.
And then you would just do the exclamation point, right?
Right.
And the close thing, and then what do you have to do in here?
Comma.
Comma, and then what's that doing? Any place you have a variable, you have to say what it is, so you would say X, right? Is that right? Yeah. Mostly. What's wrong with you? I've questioned myself since the day you walked in.
Probably a good thing. We specify precision, why not specify?
You can specify that, but I'm not going to make it. Okay. You did a switch statement already. I won't go through that again.
I actually learned that last week. That's recording. I didn't know how to work.
Yeah. It's really handy. I don't use it much because we do our data. Okay, what is the legal expression for an if statement? An integer, a boolean, either an integer or a boolean, or none of the above. Boolean, right. An if statement is going to be what? It's going to have some condition, right? And the condition is going to be either true or false. You can have 600 things going on in here, but it's going to evaluate to either true or false when it's all done. And then you'll know whether to go on. What is the possible output from invoking the math.random method?
Random numbers.
Random numbers, but what values of random numbers? If you just used math.random,
Whatever.
0 to 1.
between 0 and 1. So if I gave you a list of values like 0.2154 or 132.93 or 29 times 10 to the 32nd, which of those answers would be right?
A.
The first one, 0.2154, because it's between 0 and 1. Yeah.
I forget, does it include 0 and include 1? Or
It includes, I think it does include them both. If it doesn't, it doesn't include the one. I'll double check. Okay. If I gave you something, some string, and I said I wanted the charat, what is going to get printed out from this if I had that in a print statement? 0, 1, 2, right? Okay. True or false, Java is not sensitive to whether characters are in lowercase or uppercase.
It is.
It's false.
Big.
It is sensitive. Uppercase and lowercase are important. What's the operator for doing string concatenation? Plus. What's the import statement if you're going to use a scanner class?
Import.
What is that doing? What's the import statement doing?
It's giving access to that.
It's pulling in that scanner class into your compiled code, so it has it available. That's really
So the compiler has access.
yes. And that's why somebody asked last week if you had done import I'm trying to think of what utility class is. I think that's the wrong class. What's the difference between this and this one here, the second one? You guys understand what the difference is going on here? With the asterisk, it's importing everything in the library. With this, it's only importing that class. Why would that be important?
It makes the resources smaller. If it's more precise than what you're doing.
Right. If you use the asterisk, it pulls in everything from that library, and that could really bloat your code up if you're using one of the classes in that library, and it's got hundreds. But if you're going to be using multiples, it's a quick way to make sure you got them all.
And that only matters if compile time, right? I mean, after it's compiled, it doesn't matter which of those you use.
No, it doesn't. And you'll notice by using an IDE, it always goes to the class, all the way to the class. You may import 6 things from the Java util package, but it's going to do them individually as you need them. And that's a better way to do it. It's better. It used to be that you would do this all the time, but it's really too much overhead for your code. As programs get bigger, it can be a bigger impact. Okay. So there'll be some programs you have to go through, and it'll give you the variables and the starting initialized values. It'll go through a loop, or it'll go through a series of statements and tell you what's the result. Kind of what we did with the I plus J, that kind of thing. That'll be on the test that way. It'll give you multiple choice. What are the choices of the results on that? Okay. Tell me how to draw a UML diagram for a class called person that has a first name, last name, and phone number. Okay. Your first name, it's a string. Are your variables usually public in a class?
Private.
They're private.
Like, I guess if you just have just the one person class, it'd probably be okay. But if you have multiple classes all over the place,
You may not even need to specify.
So this would be the variables. I'm just going to use integer phone numbers. Okay, and I want to have methods to get to those. So what do I have to do? You would have your public methods, right? Your accessor and
getters,
and setters, right? And put those here. And then I say, also I want to have a calculate salary method.
So public.
So public, what it returns, say it's going to return a double.
And calculate.
Salary. Right? Something like that. Okay? So that'll be it.
And you're fine with it being written like this, you don't demand that we do like the colon thing and input the
No,
return.
all I want is some way to distinguish that it's about a private versus a public. And if it's returning something, if it's passing something in as a parameter on the method that you're passing it in, and if it's passing something back out, that you have a place to catch that type. That's all. Yeah.
We put those types on either side.
It doesn't matter. No. Yeah, sure.
What does the asterisk symbol do?
It depends on the tool you're using. I can't remember on this one.
I think it tells you that any number is possible. Or can
Okay,
be used.
that might be. I've used different tools, and they put them in different orders too. So from my perspective, all I'm looking for is that you define these as private, You define your methods as public. You have your return types from the methods and the parameter types that you're passing in to the methods. Okay, they're data types. If I told you to write a Java statement that declares an array of char elements called vowels and initiates it to A, E, I, O, U, and I want it in one statement, give me the syntax. It's a character array of vowels. Okay? I call it vowels.
Equals.
One statement. I want them initialized, and I want the array initialized and declared initialized at the same time. Curly brace.
You're doing
Okay, is it double quotes?
no.
Yeah, single quotes, right? A, comma, right? We'll make sure
E E
E,
I
I, O.
C.
And sometimes what?
In this case, we're not doing one. Okay. And anything missing on that? Semicolon. That's it. That's one line of declaring and initializing a character array, all vowels, with these values. What a great idea.
Because that one was on the test, I remember that.
Now I gotta find it because it's not on the same page. Okay, so now I have the matrix of these values, and I'm just going to use the same ones. I want you guys to build me a single Java statement that will generate or create a two-dimensional array of ints with these values in.
And Joe to go right.
Yeah, Joe, yeah, come on up. Your turn.
Wait a second.
You can do it.
What sucks is I think I got this one right on the test, and now I'm
I know I did.
We'll help you out.
Mostly right.
Okay, so let's do it over here. You can turn them if you need to. Hi, Jen. There you go, Joe. Okay, guys, help him
At
out.
least you didn't moon it.
No, he's wrong already.
PG.
Well, that's because
PG.
that's how I wrote. Sorry.
I
I
know.
understand how Joe
I
writes.
usually write it uppercase too, but you've got to be.
I like
Specific.
your open dot there.
It's almost unnatural.
It really is.
Equals.
What was the name of the array?
What were we calling this one?
Let's call it
Numbers.
numbers. Yeah, we'll just call it numbers. It's taking longer to write the lowercase letters than anything. Numbers.
I'm too much thinking about how to write the letter.
Well, good thing it's not an English class.
That's why we've got computers.
Curly braces. Double curly braces.
16.
They're numbers. They're integers.
16, 3, 11.
Is that the right order?
Sheesh.
And then we've got
Good job, you guys.
27,
49.
49, -7.
Curly brace, curly brace.
Good job.
Well done.
Okay, now, let's see. Noah gets to come up here and write a for each loop that will go through this array of numbers and print them out. So you guys help him out now. It's a
You and
for
your
each
mess.
loop.
Alright, what do we do here?
Parentheses.
4.
4. What do we got here? Alright, what do we want to do with this guy? How about Bob? What are we good for? And then down here we'll do
So what's happening in the for each loop? Everybody remember what's going on here? What's Bob?
The numbers.
Bob is just a placeholder for each of the values
Each time
as
it
it comes, it
runs.
loops through.
He could have put X and it would have worked.
It would X. This one is important, right? What's this?
It calls
the name of
It's,
the array.
it has to match this, right? But this could be anything. So it says go through that array one by one, and each individual one is going to be called Bob while you're using it in the for each loop. Okay. So you print it out, and then what are you going to print?
Anybody?
Just Bob, right? There you go.
Wait a second. That's double. What is it called? It's got two-dimensional array. Doesn't he need another for each statement?
No, you can do this. It'll print it out. But
Okay.
we're going to change for purposes of what we're going to do. I'd only do the one dimensional on the test. Okay.
I didn't even think about that. How does this do
It prints it out in brackets. It delineates them.
So each one of these is called Bob, and you're like,
Yeah, I'm going to test that one to make sure. I've done it with objects. And it
So would
prints
this
out
even
all
work? It would have to be like this. It would
Yes.
come out
Yes.
as
There's one. Yeah.
fun. We're learning.
They're like, we're done learning. We want to just know what's on the test. Okay. Okay. Tell me how you're going to initialize an array of 3 Boolean values all to true.
Okay.
You're going to initialize an array of Boolean values to true. We're going to call it B is the name of our array.
Okay, so Boolean bracket. Can you put a 3 in there?
No,
No.
not here.
Oh, okay. You can with the array, but
You can do it here. But this isn't what I wanted for the statement. You can do it there. You don't do it on this side.
okay, so erase that for the and erase.
Okay. We've covered that pretty good.
The default Boolean value false.
Yes.
We can put default in there. Does that know what we're talking about?
No, it doesn't.
If you left a space.
You get a compiler error. It would let you compile out. Okay, what's the difference between an array list and an array?
Array list is resizable.
Array list is what?
Resizable?
Resizable. That's a good point. What's another reason? What's another difference between an array list and an array?
We all like array lists compared to arrays.
That's another good reason. Why do you like array lists better than arrays?
Build multiple data.
You can hold multiple data types. Good point. You can hold different objects of different types in an array list.
They look cooler. They'll frame it less. That's fine.
They look cooler. That's always important.
They'll grow or shrink as it needs.
Yes, you can make it grow or shrink. What do you do with an array? When you initialize an array, you declare and initialize an array called X of 10 elements. Can you change it to 20 elements? No. You can copy it to another array of 20 elements, but you can't ever resize it. And you just end up, so what you normally have happen is you have a bunch of empty elements in an array just because you made it big enough. And actually, under the covers, an array list is an array. Well, if you look at if you watch the debugger, when you use an array list, you'll see it created an array of, I think it's 8 or 9 elements. And then it basically uses those, and as it gets close to the end, it creates another 8 or 9 elements in that array list.
So does that mean that when you use an array list instead of an array to assign more values to it, in the first sense you don't have to do a copy to a new one?
No.
But in the other one you do. Does that mean that either way you do it, it uses the same amount of resources?
They're probably a little bit more efficient to have it do it because they've maximized it than to have you do it. But it's interesting that it's the same thing underneath.
It just makes it easier.
It makes it easier to use because you don't have to worry about that. How would I put something into an array list? What's the syntax you use?
Array.
So I have an array list called X, and I want to add another integer. Say it's an integer array list. X dot add, right? And I add the value.
Mm-hmm.
What if I want to remove one?
Excellent.
Remove.
And then the element that you're going to remove.
And then it pops it out.
Yeah. What if I want to see what that value is in an array list? I want to see the 9th element in the array list. How would I do that?
Create a variable. Oh.
Yeah. X dot get. What would the index number be for the 9th element? Yes. Okay. Okay, that was the second exam. So now I'm just going to go through your questions chapter by chapter. We've covered some of these topics already with the quizzes in the exam, so we'll go through them quickly. What is source code? It's an algorithm written using a flowchart. That works for me. What does the Java virtual machine do? We talked that. That was several questions on here. What is an algorithm? Step-by-step procedure. Okay, what is the correct order for the Java compiler process? I'm going to shorten this so you can have to write it all out. Source code, I'm going to call it SC. To the compiler, bytecode, to the JVM, the object code. Or is it bytecode, JVM, object code, or is it source code, JVM, bytecode, compiler, object code? And the last one, source code, compiler, object code. I didn't write this question. JVM would actually be like it. Bytecode. Which of these is correct? The first one. The source code goes into the compiler. The compiler converts it to bytecode. The bytecode is used on the JVM, which becomes object code as it's being used. Which of these runs your Java program?
It's J or E.
These are your choices. Which of the following runs Java programs?
I believe that would be J2.
Yes, and C. What does this one do? That's your compiler, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's this do? It just helps you code it. It actually still has the JVM do the actual what's JDK?
Java development.
It's the development kit. It's all the libraries. Because I miswrote it. Yeah, sorry. Good. I'm glad you guys caught that. It's just Java students, correct? Okay, the question on this one was, which of the following is a compiled Java file?
It's class, isn't it?
Which one of these
Class.
is a compiled Java? Whoever wrote this intended it to be this one, but there was a space in between each of these. Your file name can't have a space in it.
Well,
So just, it's the dot class. You knew to
Okay.
look for the dot class. But I wasn't trying to trick you. I just wanted to point out that when you guys, I'm not going to correct these. When you look at this, you can't have a file name with a space.
so that would be none of the above?
None of the above, right?
Is there none of the
Not
above?
just the question that somebody submitted.
Yes.
Wrong.
Yes.
Maybe.
If,
Was there?
well, there was no other choices. It was
Oh,
one of
okay.
those 4 choices. So I think they intended to have it be hello world as one word.
Mm,
But I'm not going to go in and correct it. I don't have
At least
to
you
tell
tell
you.
all my questions.
I can't say. Okay, all the rest are repeats, so we'll go to chapter 2. What is a variable?
It's
Is that one of yours? I can't remember who I did first, but
just an object that holds a value.
it's a container that holds a value, correct. What is a nested loop?
it's a loop within a loop.
It's a loop within a loop. A blank is a question whose answer is either yes or no.
Ooh. Yes
Condition.
or no?
Condition.
What?
Boolean is a true or false.
Whoa.
Tricky.
What are 3 types of? I didn't write these guys. What are you guys did a good job on this? I actually like. What are
Oh,
the
that's
3
scary.
main types of
Yeah, that's not good.
algorithms?
Sorry,
Flow
so?
chart.
Pseudo.
Pseudo-no.
In tracing, they have tracing. Yeah. Okay, write a line of pseudocode that tells the computer to assign distance divided by time into a speed variable.
This has got to be noise.
It's actually not. Write a line of pseudocode that tells the computer to assign distance divided by time into a speed variable. Okay, that's a good start.
It's something more complicated.
Yeah, but still, like,
It's pseudocode.
So you put an arrow. That's distance
Divided by time, right?
oh,
Okay.
it sounded so much worse.
No, it's not that bad. What are 3 types of control flow? Anybody know these? Somebody wrote these. I didn't mark who
me.
did what. I just 3 types of control flow. Again, I like the question. Sequential is one.
Oh, top down, bottom up?
Conditional and looping.
Oh, well, okay.
Okay. So what is sequential? What's sequential flow?
It's where it
You just do one statement,
Yeah.
then the next statement, then the next one, right?
Mhm.
What is conditional? What's a key? What are keywords that tell you it's a conditional code? If statements or a switch statement would be another case. What is looping? What's the keywords there for looping?
While,
The do,
while, for.
loop, the do, while. Yes, those are what you're looking for. Okay. Okay, this question is, which of these is not like the other?
C.
This is A, this is B,
Oh.
this is C, and this is D. Which of these is not like the other?
D.
Why do you say D?
Because that's it's comparing
Correct. This is a comparator. What are all three of these?
assignment.
Assigning. This is pseudocode assignment. This is just the word assignment operator, and this is the assignment operator in the code. Understand, this is a comparator.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what?
I did not write these questions.
I know, I'm not.
Somebody's going to get all of their own questions right, and everybody else is going to get wrong.
Both of those are mine, actually.
What?
She's not using them, she's put easy questions in there.
Just going over them.
What is the syntax for the print line statement?
System not out
Yes.
differently.
What happens in an infinite loop?
Goes on
Until your
Goes
code.
What
until
happens in an infinite loop?
It runs out of memory.
It goes until it
It
dies.
never terminates until you run out of memory. Okay, which of these is a correct Boolean if statement?
What? Oh. Okay, we're just gonna go with B.
Okay, what's wrong with this one?
It's assigning.
Assigning what?
Answer equal.
Answer equals 7.
Yes, it's
Says
assigning
answer
7 to
equals 7.
answer.
Yeah.
And this one is comparing.
Mm-hmm.
This is some bogus statement. And this is some other bogus statement that would never run. Okay. Yes, you did errors. What kind of data would a variable named weight normally hold?
Double.
Double. The choices were int, string, and boolean. So which of those would be your choice? Int, right?
I don't know about you, but we always point something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to put this one on the board because we did this one in class. Write a valid if-else-if example using a student's grade so you can print an A for 90% and above, a B for 80 to 90, and everything under all the way to anything under a 60 being an F. So how would you use that? What kind of a switch statement would be a good thing to use? So you would do a switch statement. How would you start? What was that? Switch, and then your case statement would be you're doing a switch on K grade, and you say case 90 or greater than 90. Actually, with this case, you'd have to use an if statement because a case is looking for one thing. So you would say if the grade is greater than or equal to 90, print A. Else, if the grade is greater than 80, print a B, right? So how is that working? It's working top down, right? It's the first condition that it catches that's true, it stops looking. It just does the code there. What operator would you use to get the remainder of a number during division? What is the symbol for that? Percent. What does it give you?
Extra.
It gives you what? What's that going to give you? What's that going to give you? Right. Okay, do you understand why? Okay.
So you can't use the modular operator on any integers.
Yes. You can use it on doubles and picking.
Doubles, but it always outputs a line.
Yes. Because the remainder is always an integer value. What two methods can be used to compare strings for equality? Two methods. Okay, that's one. Equals ignore case. What's the difference between equals and equals ignore case?
One will ignore capital letter.
Right. So if the word is that, and I'm trying to compare this string to this string, when I use the equals, will it be a match?
Mm-hmm.
If I use the equals ignore case, will it be a match?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does the plus plus operator do? Increments. So if I say what is a postfix operator for x, what would you write? Okay, well, if it's a prefix operator, what's the difference? I have this, and then I have some things going on here, and then I have this one, and some things going down here, and I have a print statement here and a print statement here. What's happening? It's incrementing it after. I should do it in a for loop. Would be a better example. In a for loop, if I have the for loop, and the last condition is x plus plus, and then I do something in here with x, what happens? It's incremented after, right? Mm-hmm. What if I do it as a plus plus x?
It's before.
It's actually incremented first, right? So the values are going to be different. So if you get something that has a set of code and says what should the value be, and it's a plus plus after the value versus before it, you got to remember what's going on. Yeah.
So does a for loop run that third chunk of code?
It actually runs it after. No, it runs it after. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Joe.
So when you wrote the quiz, I think you missed one of the questions. Because one of them you had a whole bunch of the incrementers, and then you had the answers, which was 4 and 5 and something like that.
Yeah.
On that last quiz where we took it many times because we got them all right.
Oh, I didn't. Did I put that one out?
I think I got that one wrong the first time, but.
Okay, let me make sure. I thought I printed them all out.
I did, yeah, I got it right finally. So. I can only miss it 4 times.
Oh, is it this one here? What is the value of z after these statements? Is it this one you're thinking of, Joe?
Yeah, I think that is it.
Let's go through that then.
I thought I had it right, but then I'm assuming I got it wrong because I had to read the test.
Okay, and the values, your choices were 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So after these statements execute, what happens here?
So
it says z is an integer and then x equals 3.
Right. So what is z at that point?
0.
Null.
What is z at this point? Is it null or 0?
0. Sorry.
It's 0. And this is 3, right? So what's happening here?
So it'd be z equals 2.
Okay, this is important. Here's what happens. It decrements x first. So x is 3. It decrements it to what?
2.
2, and then it assigns it to z.
Mm-hmm.
So x is 2, and then z is also 2. Okay? And the third one, what's happening here? You're adding x to z, and then you're decrementing x. So what is z going to be here? 4. It's going to be 4, and what's x going to be?
1.
Right. Do you understand how that happened?
So what was the question though? What is z or what is x?
What is the value of z?
Oh, okay.
So z is 4.
Can you do the last one more time?
Yeah, let's.
Z
Okay,
is being added
so
to
the
X.
first one, Z is 0 and X is 3. Then you decrement X first here because it's in front. So it drops it down to 2, and then you assign that to Z. So Z is now 2 and X is now 2. Then here, you're actually doing this first. So you're adding X to Z, and that would be 2 plus 2 makes Z 4. Then you decrement X down to 1. Is that, you see how that works? Okay.
I did 5. I think I did 5.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to skip that one. Yeah, okay. Which of the I forgot that this was one that you guys, that I graded it differently. Okay, let's go through this next one. This is, what of the following statements make W, X, and Y all equal to the current value of Z? Your choices are this one, it's supposed to be W. Okay. The question is, which of the following statements makes W, X, and Y all equal to the current value of Z?
A.
A or B, because what you care about is Z's got to be at the right side of this because it's an assignment. So it's being assigned to Y, and then that value is being, what Y is being assigned to X. What X is being assigned to W. And the same thing here, Z, they're just, these three are in different orders.
We know it's really good because there was 2 answers to that, but you couldn't select them both.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. That's the way it should be on this one.
So this is one what, this is why we got 9 out of 9, so 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kept missing one until I switched that answer.
It was supposed to be you could pick either of those two and get it right. And so, anyway, that's what it should be. Basically, the idea is whatever's on the right-hand side is getting assigned to whatever's on the left. Okay?
I know a guy who lives in structure, so I'll get all that.
Okay. Okay. We talked typecasting already. What does it mean to say that Java is a strongly typed language?
The variables are set previously before.
Each variable and value within a program is defined to have a particular data type. Where there is strongly typed and data type. Okay, we've done all of those then that were on that quiz. That was all the questions. The last one was the enum. The one was the infinite loop of 0, 2, 4, 6. We talked those, so I just want to make sure we covered them all. Okay, match the following data types to their proper variable here. Okay, you tell me the data types. What data type is there? What's this one? What's this one?
String.
No, it's a char.
Char,
That's
sorry.
a char. Yeah. You're right. You have to be this way then. So that's a typo on this. I don't know who wrote it, but there's a typo there. You're right. Okay.
You can blame me.
They could be shorts or floats.
Yeah, it could be. If you were given choices, though, you could pick from one of the choices that fit. This was a matching list that you would put over here, and then you could pick Which one goes with
Good
which?
question.
What was that?
What's the difference between short, double, long, long?
The difference is how much space they can hold and the biggest value they can hold in. No. I don't remember that. I have to look it up every time. I don't see a reason you would memorize that. It's 32,565 is the value. It just doesn't make sense because it changes every time, or almost every time they release a new version of the JDK, because they usually make it bigger. It can be platform specific as well, yes. But it can also be.
So that could be a very lean question.
I'm not going to do that to you guys. Like I said, I don't memorize it, so I don't. Okay, what are the 3 types of loops and when would you use each one? So give me the 3 types of loops first. A for loop, a do loop or do while, and a while loop. When would you use a for loop? When you know how many times you're going to go through it. When would you use a do loop? You want it to run at least once. When would you do a while loop?
If you don't want it to run, if you want to only run a specified amount,
That would be a case where you may never run through that loop. What's the difference between a do loop and a while loop is it may not run the while loop at all because the condition may never be met. Right, 0 or more times versus 1 or more, yes. Okay. Okay, they have another switch statement in here. You need to just know how a switch statement is going to work. It's the zip code version that we did in the homework. So if you look over your homework where you did the case statement for the zip code, the code here is exactly the same. What are the 6 comparison operators that Java has?
6 comparison.
Comparison.
Equals,
Equals.
not equals.
Not equals. What's a symbol for not equals?
Exclamation point.
Exclamation equal. Less than. Greater than. Less than equal to. Or greater than equal to. Yes. You have this snippet of code.
Yeah.
There is snippets in the final. I actually used the word and thought of you guys as I typed it in. I'm shorting this to Joe's thing just because I'm tired of writing it. Okay, what gets printed out from this code? This is
Nothing, there's no print statement.
that is the print
Yeah,
statement.
oh.
Okay, I shortened it. I didn't want to write it all out today.
Oh, now I get it.
So it'll just print out 0, 1, 2. No, 0.
Okay, so
1,
let's
2,
walk
yeah.
through it. So A is 0. Okay is set to false. So while
So it goes.
not okay, which is while false, right?
So it runs through it.
It runs through it. It prints out A, which is 0. Okay. Then it says if A equals 2, then set OK to true. But A is not 2, so it's going to skip that. Increments A. Now A is 1, right? Oh, I should have put this here.
So it's gonna go through 12, like 3
Yes,
times.
this is somebody's test question.
No, you bastard.
Right.
Okay, so now A is incremented to 1. You come back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still
What's
false.
okay set to?
Not okay.
It's still false.
This is false.
Still false.
Okay, so it's still false. So it prints A out again. Now what's A?
1.
1. Okay. If A is equal to 2.
Nope.
Nope. So jumps down. What does it do here? It sets A to 2 now. Comes
Then
back
it'll go
up.
through.
What does it do here?
Still false.
It's still false. So it goes in and prints it out, right? And now what happens here?
It is
A
true.
is now 2, so
So
okay is true.
So okay becomes true. What does A become?
3.
A becomes 3.
And it does not go through again
It
because
doesn't go through and it's done, right? Okay. If you use a repeated thing which will have to be done at least one time, you should use what kind of loop?
Wait, what?
If you know that you have a repeated thing needs to be done at least one time, what kind of loop would you use? Yep. Okay. What keyword do you use to make a data type final?
Fine.
What does the double pipe symbol mean?
Or.
Okay. The next question is, write a brief description of these logical operators.
Okay. Can you explain the double pipes?
Yes.
What?
Okay, that just
Or.
a,
That's just the term they use.
oh, right, okay.
This is a double pipe.
Okay.
Like, wait, what?
Just the word confused.
Okay, so what's this?
Not.
What does that mean?
It's not whatever follows.
It's the opposite of whatever follows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We just used it over here. What's this mean?
Or.
What's this one mean?
Comparison.
Equal.
What's that one mean?
And.
Okay, I'm just going through them all that they have on here.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
What happens if you have this?
Remainder.
Oh.
Just kidding. It's dividing.
It's saying y equals the remainder of x.
It does the division of x divided by y, it gives you the remainder, right? And then it assigns it to x.
No.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Like, wait a second.
Yes. Okay. There's more symbols on here. There's this divide equal symbol. If I said x divide y, what happens there? Divide equal. You divide x divided by y, and then it sets that to x. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Plus equals. What happens there? X plus y is assigned to x, right? So if x is 2 and y is 3, x is now going to become 5. There's a few more symbols on here. Just know what they are. Okay. There's some more code on here. And since I'm going to put this out, I'm not going to go through it because we're going to run out of time. There's blocks of code that people have put in here, snippets of code, know what it does. Walk it through. Most of these are the operators. There's another one that says implement this logic, and it gives you the logic, and you need to write the code to do that. Please double check the code. I did not double check the code that's in here. I will double check the exam questions when I put them in to make sure they are right, but I'm not going to go through this to double check that everybody's
You just want
answers
to
are right.
post those exam questions for
No,
us?
I'm not going to post those. I am going to post them next week or starting tomorrow in the testing center.
No, I post them online.
No, I will. You got a question, right?
Yeah, the platforms that go over the last two chapters, so we don't have questions.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Let's go over those first. You guys went through chapters 14. Most people gave questions through chapters 14. So let me, we're still got 5, 6, 7. You guys have gotten most of these questions, and we've covered them. Some of them were covered in other chapters as well. Let's start and go in backwards and see where we end up. Okay, what is an exception? Something that doesn't work right? Yes. It's an event that occurs during the execution of a program that disrupts the normal flow. What is the technique for handling error events gracefully?
Area?
Exception handling is the way to handle it. Okay. Select the best answer out of these 4 choices. To catch a particular thrown exception, the catch block's parameter type must be exactly the same as the exception type. A particular catch block can catch exceptions from more than one try block. Each try block must be followed immediately by a catch block. And D, every Java statement that might throw an exception must be in a separate try block. It's actually C. Every try block must be followed immediately by a catch. So you'll have a try, you'll have the word try, a brace, a bunch of things you're going to try to do, a close brace. This is the try block. This is the code for the try block. Immediately after that will be a catch block. It will have the word catch. It'll have parentheses, the exception object you're trying to catch. The generic one is exception. You give that object a name. In this case, it's usually E. It does not have to be. And then its block with curly braces of how you're going to handle that particular exception. So this can have one or more statements in here in the try block. And if any of those fail, it jumps down to the catch block and then runs whatever the statements are that you had here. Okay?
After it runs to the catch block, does it go anywhere else? Or is that
This is where it cleans it up. It jumps down and finishes and does whatever you have below.
after the catch?
After the catch. Now, if like I said, if it expects something down here that got messed up in the try, you could end up still having your program crash, but it does jump down and do whatever's after the catch. You could do a break. Or you could, the other way to do this is in your class name. You could do the throws up here and what exception you're going to throw. And what that does is it passes it out to the column method for the class. Okay, there's two types of exceptions, checked and unchecked. Which of those requires a try-catch mechanism? A checked exception. Checked exceptions. Yes. So understand, in this chapter, I want you to know what an exception is, what exception handling is, the syntax for the try-catch blocks, the try and the catch blocks, the difference between a checked and an unchecked exception. Okay, identify the two alternative ways to deal with the possibility that an unchecked exception might be thrown. One is you could write code so that exception is caught. It does not have to be in a try-catch block. You could write your code to check and verify. And the other is to do an exception try-catch block. Those are your choices. You can program it yourself, or you can use a try-catch blocks to do it for you. Either way works. Okay, let's do one here. I'm going to put some code up, and you're going to tell me where you're going to put the try and the catch in here to catch the error. Oh, I missed the word here. I know I don't have the stuff in there, but that's not the point of this right now. These are my statements. I've got a space in between because I'm just leaving it for you to tell me where to put things. And this one I took from the book. It's actually a print.
When you do a
You need a scanner.
Okay, we're going to assume that's simple.
Okay.
Right. Don't you want to?
Okay, if you were going to error trap this, where would you put your try block? Where would you start it?
By the input? Or?
Right in between.
Okay,
Above the first system.
I'm going to number the lines, and you tell me what line. line 3, you would put what here?
Try.
I'm going to write with a different color.
Curly brace.
Okay?
Mm,
You could put it
Couldn't you
the
put it
next line down, but
that,
under
just to make
system?
it, make more sense.
So
What do you mean the
As
other?
long as you put it
in between
before line
num and
5,
system.
you're okay. So
Yes, you could put it right here too.
That's
It would,
where I was
that would work. Because what are you
thinking.
trying to trap? You're trying to trap this.
mm-hmm.
So where do you put the closing block for? If you put it here, this is great. This works.
But the problem
This
is,
is the
your,
catch. Then
your
you
print
put your
statement over
catch
there
right
wouldn't
after,
work.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you end up putting a
You have
letter
your
in there
So yeah, why is this not a good idea this way?
because your other system not out of print is trying to take something from.
Yes, it's
above.
trying to use that value. This is what you asked about what happens after the catch block. It would try and print out this, and if num was messed up, your whole thing is going to blow up. So you'd probably do it down here with the catch right here. What happens is your try says, I'm going to try some lines of code, and if you have any errors or any problems with it, that would be normal Java exceptions, then just jump out to the catch block. But if you do, you see you're asking for a num here, and this is what we're looking to make sure that they put it in as an integer. If they put in X, say they typed in X, your catch block would fire.
I don't get why you would.
If you put it here and you do a bunch of things, you say that was a bad value, then it still runs the next statement after.
Oh, I see.
So it would try and run this, and you have num in here, and then you'd end up with a problem.
I see.
Okay? So you would most likely want it down here. That way, if there's a problem here, this isn't going to run either. And you might, in your catch block, say you input a bad value. I'm going to assume you wanted 5 or whatever. Yeah.
So the other thing you could do is you could assign num a value in the catch. Can you do that
Yes,
in
you
the
could
catch
do
block?
that. You could say, that's what I was saying. You could say, you screwed up. I'm going to assign it some random number between, the program in the book said between 1 and 10 or something. So it gave you a random value. That way it could do the rest of the stuff with an actual value.
Or right there, could you ask them again for another number and do the
Yes,
whole
you
try
could do
catch
it.
thing and then doing it?
You would do it a little differently. You'd still have you still got to be able to have some kind of a loop in here to do it, but you could always, yes, you could do that. You
Give them
can't do a catch and then say go back up to line 4.
Well, what does
And
mean
run.
more mean do another try catch thing
Yes,
in
you
your
can do it.
catch?
Yes, you can do that. That's a bad way to do it, but you could. Okay. So that's the thing here is notice that you have a value here that if you had put your catch statement too early, you would end up with a problem below.
Unless in your catch you put something for that.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I wanted to get out for exceptions for you guys because there's a lot to it, but this is the bulk of it. To understand, one, that exception handling is a clean way to move and be able to make sure your code is working accurately. You never have to use a try-catch block if you don't want to, if you write really good, robust code. You can avoid using.
So is that the purpose of it, just to help debug your code?
Yeah, and it's to say maybe I didn't think of everything, so when it's running and it gets an error, it's not going to crash the whole program.
Just like watching the programmers I work with, I think a lot of them will use it on code that other people have written. Because you can't really go in there and sometimes you can't, like on legacy code and stuff, you can't go in there and just do a rewrite to make it robust without breaking a ton of stuff. But they want to add the error handling so that they know what's breaking.
Right. They might have a bunch of method calls for somebody else's classes in here, and they're not really sure what's going on. So they might do a try catch around that and then go from there and handle it. Yeah. And a lot of times you can do it and you can start out more generic, and as you run your program and work with it, you can narrow down what you're looking for or the exceptions you're getting. Yes, it's a form of debugging. It really is. Yes, you could use it as a way to do that. You can write your own exceptions too. We won't get into that in this class. You guys will get into it in the advanced class. Where you could say, you can have your own exception messages that come up and say, hey, dummy, you put in a bad value, instead of the illegal value format or whatever that you get from Java. You can put your own messages in. And we used to do that on a database system we had. We used to have a whole database table of error messages that made sense to the user, that we would translate the message you got from the database to what the user can expect or understand. Okay. Let's go through chapters 14 and 13, and then we'll quit for tonight. If you guys, and then I will post all these out here. I will post them out as they're just text files by chapter. And you can grab them and look at them, do with it. Again, I did not verify that the answers are correct. I will verify that they are when I put it on the test. If there's an error, the ones I spotted, I tried to point out as we went through it. And then I'll go through if you want the homework after this. But let's go through 14. What is polymorphism?
Fun word.
It is a fun word. What is it? Anybody know? Like 4 or 5 people had it as a question.
Using multiple methods with the same things and override for the subclass.
It's when different types of objects respond differently to the same method call. I have a fruit object, I have an apple object, and an orange object, and they both have a display method. What they display could be completely different. I should use a different example. I have a lion object and I have an apple object, and they both have a display method, but what they display is different data.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have a car and a bike object. Yes.
Basically answered how it handled it in Java, but
Right.
I didn't answer what exactly it was.
What does the instance of operator do?
So if you ask that question, what is polymorphism, and using a big fat text block, not multiple choices, something like that, if you were to explain it through, like using the employee and the salary, like describe it that way, would that be acceptable?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I understand better is actually just listing out everything and then when you override.
Right. And I will. Those won't be graded when you guys get your test because I look at the essay questions later. But I do go and look at it. If you've got the point across, or you knew exactly what it was, you didn't use the words.
The textbook answer.
You didn't use, the textbook answer respond differently to a method, but you explained that you had a method called display in an apple object and in a lion object, and they both did something different.
I saw another thing on a YouTube video where they said that the concatenation plus was polymorphism too.
It is. It actually is. Because it's going in, and depending on your data types, depends on what the plus is actually doing. If it's 2 strings, what are you doing when you use the plus? You're concatenating together. If it's 2 numbers, 1 plus 2, what are you getting? You're adding them together. You're getting a value of 3, right? That's an example of polymorphism because it says if it depends on the data types coming into it or around it, that determines what it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a good thing to point out. It is. It's okay. What are the 3 most important aspects of object-oriented programming? Polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance. Okay, those 3 things. Let's see.
You were about that instance of.
Yeah. Oh, what does the instance of operator do? Remember I just talked about you have a lion object and you have an orange object?
Mm-hmm.
If you use instance of, it's a way to say if I have some object called X is an instance of orange, then I can do these things. If it's not an orange, it doesn't make sense to do this. An orange object. This is allowing me to say, what is X? Is it an orange or is it a tiger, as an example? And depending on what it is, I can decide what I want it to do. Because maybe what I'm going to do here doesn't make sense to the object if it's not an orange.
Is that a less automatic way to do polymorphism?
No, it's actually it's a big part of polymorphism, is to say, I've got a bunch of different, could be any of these objects, A, B, C, and D. I don't know what it is. And in fact, you're doing this in your homework if you're doing it. You have the hourly, the salaried, and the salary plus commission. And you don't know what type you're going to get. This would be in in the application, you're supposed to get their salary or their wages, whatever it is. And you would say, if it's an instance of hourly, I know their wages are hours times whatever, is one way to do that. But it's the ability to say, tell me what type of object you are. And if you are this type of object, then I can do these things with you. Yeah.
So if we did, use the homework as an example, if X instance of employee, and X is a salary plus employee, will that still return true?
That would return true in that case because employee is the superclass. But you would probably do it as X an instance of salary plus commission employee. Then do this. Yeah, that would be more likely the case.
Can we do it that way instead of the override?
What was that?
Can we do it that way instead of the override?
No, the overwrite when you do the printout is important to do that. But this is important in other ways to be able to tell me. If I don't know what the objects are coming in, I can verify them because that will keep me from crashing my program to do something I can't do.
So in this instance, if you had multiple things, you would start out with the if and then move to the else if.
Yeah, if you wanted to say do steps 1 through 3 if it's an orange, and steps 4, 5, and 6 if it's a lion, and step 8 if it's anything else. You could do it that way. You could use it. I'm not sure you can use it in a case statement.
Case X instance of orange.
No, because case is only taking one thing in.
Oh,
Yeah, so you have to use an if statement. Yeah. You can do it. I don't believe you can do a case statement. I've always done it with an if statement. But it's really powerful because you don't have to. You can say, you tell me what you're going to create, and then when the program's running, I'm going to double check what it is and move with it on there. Okay. Let's see. What operator lets you know if a referenced object is descended from a specific class? What is the syntax? A extends, B instance of, C abstract, or D equals. Extends. The way they word this, the operator is instance of. The word is extends. And how do you write that you're going to extend? Or you're going to be a subclass of another class. If you have a class called A and a subclass called B, how do you do the declaration for B? B extends A. Class B extends A, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's
Public class.
that's right, public class?
Hey, it's worth pointing to test, sure.
What? Okay, what is returned by the object class's toString method by default? Yes, a string, but what's in the string? What does it return if I say orange toString and I haven't defined it? Some hash value, then what? It's usually it's a class name, the class name, and then some other stuff, right? Not very useful. So what do you do to make it useful information?
Override it.
You override it. How do you spell the word override?
O-B-E-R-R-I-D-E.
Override, yes. R-I-D-E, not W-R-I-T. You're not overwriting it. You're overriding it. Okay. So make sure you know that word. Just looking. Okay, what are the syntax features of an abstract method? What is an abstract method?
Something that's different.
Right, has no body. So what are you doing when you define something as an abstract method? Usually it relates to the word interfaces. With interfaces, you're saying, I'm going to create an interface that requires that you have a display method and a get salary method and these other methods, but I'm not going to tell you how to code it. If you use my interface, when you implement it, you have to have a display method and a get salary method and another method. And you can do nothing or you can code a bunch of stuff in there, but you just have to have those. And you do that because when you're going to create your own little objects, your own little classes that somebody else may buy, say from a third party, you want to make sure that they're all using them the same way. Yeah.
So in the homework assignment, we have to do the abstract get earnings. That means we have to have a get earnings in every other class. When I did that, it also wanted me to make the class abstract.
Yes.
Why does it do that?
What was that?
Why does it make the class abstract?
Because you have an abstract method in the class that says, okay, then I have to make sure that the class is the same. It says so that everything stays kosher. Okay, most of these are the same type of questions on here. I'm looking to see if there's anything different than what we've already talked. In chapter 13, we talked about aggregation, inheritance, composition. So let's go through what is aggregation? It's silence in the class. It's when one class is the whole and the other classes are parts. What's an example of aggregation that we did in class?
Pedal on
A bike and the pedal and the wheels. Which part? The pedal and the wheels are aggregation of bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the difference between aggregation and composition?
Composition should be parts of other things.
No, that's wrong. Both aggregation and composition has a relationship. One is it has to be part of it. It can't exist without it. The other one can't. Composition is has to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
When the whole class is the exclusive owner of the part classes, it is called composition. When the whole class is the exclusive owner of the part classes, in reality, I can have wheels and pedals without having a bike, but I can't have I'm trying to think of the example I have in the book where you wouldn't have the employee. Yeah, the employee can exist outside of the dealership. So that is an aggregation relationship. But the cars are owned by the dealership. So that is a composition relationship there. Okay. What is inheritance? What is inheritance? Is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
A lion is an animal. An orange is a fruit. That kind of thing. What are some of the benefits of using inheritance?
You don't have to reinvent.
Code reusability, correct. You don't have to reinvent. Smaller modules and easier debugging usually.
Mm-hmm.
Organization of your code, yes. If old bike inherits from bike, what word makes old bike inherit everything from bike? Extends. And then know the difference. Okay, if you have bike and old bike, which of those is the superclass? Bike. Which one is the subclass?
Old bike.
Old bike, right. Why would you ever want to use the final access modifier?
You don't want anything to be able to change it.
Yes, you don't want it to be overridden. Which would be the superclass, employee or person?
Person.
Person. Why would person be?
Because you could be a customer.
Right. It's usually more generic. Okay. Let me quickly go through a few of the other chapters just to make sure. Like I said, I'll post these out here. We have done almost everything that was in these other chapters as well. We didn't do the pieces of code that people put together, but they're you can look at it. Just quickly going through them. The study guide will cover the same topics we covered tonight. What's a superclass? What's a constructor? All that. That'll be there for guidance to make sure we cover it. I have already pulled some of the questions. I have not pulled them all. They are off this set of data that we talked tonight. They're either off the quizzes, the exams, or your questions. There's nothing outside of that.
Do you know how many questions that?
It's probably going to be between 75 and 100 questions. Oh, sorry. Between
Holy
50.
shnikes.
I've got to cut it down. I've got probably 75 questions right now. I've got to cut it down, and I will do that tonight. Most of them are multiple choice.
Oh.
Chair. It's more accurate grade.
It's true. We can miss more.
Yeah.
I actually like it better because you don't get dinged so hard by making a simple mistake.
I feel like more of a dumbass in questions like this.
You're not going to miss them. You guys did really well tonight. You came up with the answers.
You
And
just
I
do like
will.
one question. One is good at each.
I do really well in the assignments too. I get over 100%, but I still suck at tests.
That's true.
Did you see the last test?
Did you see the first test?
What was that?
The first test really.
Yeah, but like I said, the questions are going to come off the quizzes, the exams that we went over, and this set of questions.
And can we go? Do we have access to the previous exams?
No, you don't. That's why I went through all the questions on the previous exams.
Oh, okay.
Tonight.
Are you going to be posting those?
No, I am not going to post this.
I'm glad we recorded this.
That is fine. No, I will not post those. I will post your questions that you guys put out there. I have no problem doing that. I will not post the other ones. Okay. Most of you recorded it or wrote it down, anything we talked about on the board.
These guys are like 150 words per second right now.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Okay. I will be studying just like you guys over the weekend and next week. If you run into serious issues or serious questions, please shoot me an email. I will promise to check my.
Are you sure?
Yes, I promise to check. Tomorrow I probably won't be able to check things because I will be out of town most of the day. But other than that, I will look on Canvas, post things to the discussions.
Oh.
Then I can see them a little easier. There's something wrong with my Weaver email, and I'm not getting all my emails there. So post them on the discussion. If you post them on the discussion and somebody else has the answer to it, go ahead and post it for other people, okay? So you make sure they know. The exam will be out there tomorrow. You can take it tomorrow, Saturday, and Monday through Thursday of next week. That's fine. So any other questions? Do you want to go over the homework?
I want to go home.
You want to go home? You can.
Okay.
Post any questions on the homework to the discussion forums too, and I'll try and answer those as well. Yes, Chris. Good night, you guys. Have a good weekend. Study hard, and we'll see you next
Say
week.
bye, Joe.
Bye, Jen. But good luck next semester.
Really,
you guys, honestly, all of you should
Say
do
goodbye.
really well. Thank you. So I appreciate your
We're
time.
gonna say
and
goodbye to
staying
Jen.
with me.
Hi, Jen.
Have fun in San Francisco? She's in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Bye, Jen. Have fun.
Have fun in San Francisco.
Don't do anything these guys wouldn't do.
You're right.
She is, and talking about rainbow colored crosswalks. It's not fair.